Great. So just to say a welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for your time today. This is the Invest Leadership Programme that Gloucestershire Community Foundation set up in view to support in ways other than funding. And it's very exciting that we've teamed up with the Cranfield Trust and the Honourable Company to launch two programmes through the Invest programme, which is the mentoring and peer-to-peer programmes. We've just finished the first official year. We'd like to share a bit about that and our learning, and we're continuously learning, but it's very exciting to actually hear some of the feedback and what has been quite a simple programme, just how life-changing it's been actually for some of our community leaders, charity leaders that have an awful lot on their plate. I'm going to share some slides. Can everybody see? Great. I think we all know about housekeeping these days. I think we've been on enough Zooms. So today's agenda, a little bit about GCF, the partnership with the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire, which is Andrew Tabor, who leads on this programme, Marie Langan, who's our project manager for the Cranfield Trust, a little bit of an overview of the programme and what is mentoring versus coaching, and the peer-to-peer exchanges, and then a good chit chat, any questions. So moving on to introductions, Gloucestershire Community Foundation, for any of you who don't know us, some of you do, but for any of you who don't, sorry if you've heard this before, but we're a community foundation network of 47 community foundations across the country. Actually, we're global, across the world, but essentially in terms of the UK areas, we cover most geographical areas. We're place-based funders. We particularly serve grassroots community groups, and in the billion we've delivered, the average grant size is around £4,000. So charity leaders told us through our research in 2020-21, we asked the question, how can we support you in ways other than funding? We got asked for practical help around facilitating partnerships and collaborations, marketing, resilience planning, and mentoring was answered by, out of the 100 respondents, 25 are charity leaders, and all asked for mentoring. So we could see the real value in supporting our charity leaders, which is where the partnership to partner with two amazing organisations to deliver something like this, because we can't do it alone and we can't do it on our own. So the partnership was born in terms of supporting a mentoring programme. At the heart of GCF, Community Foundations, it's about partnerships and collaborative working. So we may be a grant maker, but there's an element of we need to do much more than just grant making. So this year has been particularly exciting to see how the partnership with the Honourable Company and the Cranfield Trust, the delivery of the first year, it's been really exciting to see that feedback coming through and just how much has been delivered in such a short time. So together we developed a pilot programme. I think some of you may have seen Gemma from WHAM. She was one of our pilot programme ladies, a mentee and a mentor video that's online. Lots of people have watched it, and she really, you know, to see her organisation grow with the support she's had, the pilot programme just enabled us to deliver this full programme this year, and develop it beyond. So we have learned a lot, and our partnership is growing and developing, and we're going to keep learning. We'd like this to be a 5-year programme, and so here is our second year. So to introduce Andrew from the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire, I'll pass you over. For those who don't know the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire, Andrew's here to enlighten us.
Thanks, Talitha. Well, the Honourable Company was set up in 2007 to capitalise on all that is best in the ceremonial county of Gloucestershire, which also incorporates South Gloucestershire. And this was for the whole benefit of the whole community. The company focuses in particular on support for business, education, charities and voluntary organisations, sports, art and heritage, and indeed the armed forces. And it works through its members to encourage the development of leadership and to advance debate on key issues. In particular, the company promotes and rewards excellence and the development of young people, particularly in the areas of science, sport and youth organisations. And we have a partnership with the Gloucestershire Playing Fields Association and with the cadet units and indeed with the police cadets as well. We also sponsor the arts and heritage. We support units of the armed forces, both regular and reserves, and any cadets and relevant supporting organisations. And we further links with the voluntary sector, and this obviously includes the mentoring of the smaller charities, public services, schools, colleges, and universities. And each year we promote the Gloucestershire Lecture, which is for a county-wide audience, and it can be on subjects of national interest or indeed a local interest. And recent subjects have included GCHQ, law and order, sustainability, and the future for rural Gloucestershire. And we were very lucky to secure Adam Henson a couple of years ago. We also support major civic and social events across the county. Our members come from a wide variety of backgrounds, so we're able to utilise their personal and professional networks to further the company's objectives. Charitable activity is central to what we do, and although not shown in this slide, in 2012, the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire Charitable Trust was incorporated to serve the community and as a demonstration of the commitment by members to the objectives of the company. And the Trust has made grants over £210,000 since its formation. So where did the idea of mentoring originate, or the mentoring project originate? And I'm sure that other organisations have had similar thoughts, but some 3.5 years ago, the company's community support group, which I currently chair, discussed how the company should assist the voluntary sector in addition to the grants from the Charitable Trust. The general belief was that our members were well placed to bring their experience and individual skills in an advisory capacity to charity leaders, and that there was a genuine need there. The question then remained how best to publicise and deliver the project. And this is where GCF came in, advising us to contact the Cranfield Trust, which by chance has the Princess Royal as its patron, as we do as well. And Cranfield Trust and the Honourable Company decided to run a pilot project in 2019-2020, with Cranfield Trust training the volunteer members from the Honourable Company and then matching them with charity leaders. Initially, the Honourable Company approached charities which had received grants from our Charitable Trust, but both GCF and Cranfield Trust also helped in finding charity leaders who might benefit from mentoring. And in that year, we managed to successfully mentor 6 charity leaders. And then last year, the first year of the Invest project, well, as I say, the rest is history. It went very well, and I'm sure we'll hear about more about that later. That's all from me, Talitha.
Brilliant. And Marie.
Hi everybody. I'm Marie Langan, and I'm the project manager for the Southwest for the Cranfield Trust. I'm based in Bristol, worked at home before the pandemic, so I'm quite used to Zoom, but also have been used to going out and about in the county and meeting charities, meeting volunteers and coordinating all that activity. So it's nice to get back to doing that. Cranfield Trust is a charity. We've been around for just over 30 years, and what we do as a speciality is providing pro bono management consultancy to charities, just small charities that have to meet some particular eligibility criteria, which we'll go into a little bit later. And consultancy can be around, it's mainly business planning, strategic development, but it can also be governance, IT, marketing, finance, anything where you would have to buy in some expertise. And as you know, as charities or as small kicks or social enterprises, that's very expensive to buy in. So what we've been doing is using skilled volunteers from the business community to deliver those pro bono projects. So that's the main thrust of what we do. But also we were always doing mentoring projects with small charities. There's a high element of mentoring in everything we do anyway, but we started to specialize in those one-to-one mentoring projects and giving people the opportunity to have a one-to-one professional business mentor, really. And we formalized that recently because we realized how popular it is and how effective it is when it's done really well. So we, with the help of Professor David Clutterbuck, who's a bit of a guru in the area, we designed our own mentoring framework, and we use that to deliver the mentoring that we're doing with Talitha and the GCF on Invest. And it really, the skill is in matching the charity leaders with a volunteer with a really good fit, somebody with the right skills, who's probably as far as possible geographically able, local and able to sort of meet up regularly, especially now as we're all meeting up face to face again. But also that chemistry, that fit in terms of experience, interests, and just making a good match that will be successful is really important. And then the Cranfield Trust will oversee the training and support of the mentor, and obviously checking on the progress of the matched pair. And at the end of the process, obviously gathering feedback, evaluating the outcomes and the impact, and tweaking the programme. As Talitha says, we keep continuing to improve the programme. So looking at what works, what doesn't, and just those hints and tips. So we'll be doing another round of refreshing those mentoring skills with the pool of mentors that we have, and any additional people who've dialed in today to find out about the mentoring side of things. Please do get in touch if you think you'd like to try being a mentor, because we do have obviously a few vacancies, if not on this programme, then with the Cranfield Trust locally anyway. So that's the Cranfield Trust and us, and back to Talitha.
Thank you, Marie. So 2 objectives. We wanted to look at helping the voluntary sector leaders navigate their organisations through the pandemic and beyond. I think the conversations we were having with our charities across the pandemic is some felt particularly isolated within their roles. Some of their boards were of an older generation that weren't able to necessarily help or access that support from boards. Some of the boards went a bit quiet. Depending on how your networks were developed, you didn't necessarily have other peers within the sector that you could go to and talk to. So there was definitely a feeling of slight isolation and loneliness. And even with the most connected, I think that piece around isolation and loneliness kicked in. So for us around sustainability, we're looking at that resilience building of our charity sector, and supporting our leaders means they're able to support best their charities, and that means it's going to have that knock-on effect on our communities. So in 2021, 13 charity leaders were funded to go through this programme. It was the one-to-one mentoring with the honourable company members, and then secondary and equally and alongside was a new piece of work around exchange groups. So this learning set that the Cranfield Trust have facilitated and developed for this year, and that's gone particularly well in terms of peers coming together on the programme and supporting each other. Marie will go through a little bit of the detail later, and then developing those networks has been really key, and some of that partnership working or just feeling more supported. Then we celebrated, we had a wonderful celebration with all of our volunteers in February, where a lot of, for the first time, we met face to face. I hadn't actually met Marie in the whole of this programme for 2 years, and finally met her face to face in February. So we've all been working together a long time, but it was wonderful to meet the mentors and mentees and hear their stories, and it was pretty moving in terms of the feedback for the year. So we'll share a bit about that later. So Marie will just go into a little bit more about what is mentoring. I think people often think it's coaching and you're being told what to do. It's not that. So Marie will talk about mentoring and what that looks like and feels like.
Absolutely, thanks Talitha. So mentoring, as I say, we always did mentoring at Cranfield Trust, but when we started to look at it a little bit more formally and formalise what we were doing, we sort of narrowed into what we think it's really about in terms of the charity sector. And we thought actually one of the things that Talitha's already spoken about, the isolation, the isolating feeling of being in a role in a charity, a small charity, it's quite overwhelming sometimes. So we thought, well, let's focus on that the mentoring is an opportunity for charity leaders to get support in those sort of overwhelming and isolated roles where they perhaps don't have a huge budget for training and support and development. Also, we thought mentors can share experiences in their own sector and in their own careers. So that could be, some of the mentors do have experience in the charity sector, but they'll also have experience in the public sector, private sector, running their own businesses, being in professions, all sorts of different sectors. And that can help you think about things differently. You're just getting that just different perspective on your issues and on your organisation. And there's also an element of needing particular help with a particular issue. So what I will do when people put in their applications and when we speak to participants who have applied for the programme this year is I'll have a chat with you about your own specific objectives. So if there's something you particularly would like to work on, tell me about that, and then I can make sure that I use that in finding the right fit and the right match for you in terms of a mentor, because if you're asking for particular skill sets, then I can make sure that we find someone with that kind of experience. So it's also a way of solving particular business issues that you've got and exploring better ways of doing things. Talitha mentioned mentoring and coaching, and there is definitely a difference. Equally, training is another difference again. The difference between mentoring and coaching, a little bit more subtle, so we'll talk about that a little bit. There's a lot in common between coaching and mentoring. Many of the skills of a mentor you would also expect of a coach, but I think it's just the approach really, or the sort of where we're coming from is the difference. You might want a coach to teach you how to do a specific thing or how to perform a particular task, but you would expect some of that from a mentor, because you might have a particular issue where you need some coaching, but the mentor is not necessarily there to teach you how to help you with your performance. The mentor is more there to listen and to just help you explore some solutions that you can come up with yourself really, but you just need a little bit of help and guidance and support. So it's a little bit less formal than coaching. You might, for example, get a coach to teach you how to carry out a particular, I always use the example of maybe rugby, football, golf, a particular activity where you need someone to coach you to perform a little bit better. Mentoring is much more informal than that. Can be quite, there's lots of things you can learn from a mentor because you're learning from their experience. And also from one session to the next, you may not know exactly what you're going to talk about with your mentor. You can be quite flexible about what you will talk about from one session to the other, but you might have an overarching objective to your mentoring project. You might want to, for example, be better at time management. So it can be quite broad. The mentoring process in itself, so we talk about sessions, we limit the number of sessions to 6 sessions, and the reason we do that, obviously, a mentoring relationship can go on for months, years, it can go on forever. People famously have mentors throughout their business life, but we restrict it to 6 sessions because we want to keep, this is an annual program, so we want to keep it within the year, so we're able to sort of feedback it at the end of the year, and you'll be able to walk away and implement what you've learned. The sessions are about between 60 and 90 minutes, and that's obviously not fixed. If you need a little bit longer, you take a little bit longer, but 60 normally works for most people. We've developed a mentoring handbook, which is a guide to mentoring, which helps mentor and the mentee to sort of get established and what to do in the middle there, and then how to wrap it up. It's a nice guide to how we approach the mentoring process. And then I will, as the Cranfield Trust project manager, I'll be in touch with the mentee and the mentor during the process, just to make sure everything's going smoothly and just to help if there are any glitches along the way, because obviously we don't know what life's got in store for us, any of us. There can be occasions when you might need to sort of postpone a session or have an extra session or whatever. On the whole, you would sort that out with your mentor directly, but if you need to run anything by me, I'm here for you to run anything by. And then at the end of the project, obviously, it's getting feedback and evaluating and getting your thoughts and suggestions for how we could do this better or what might be a nice addition. And one of the things that actually came out of last year's programme was we did both services last year. We presented both mentoring and peer-to-peer forum services, but we did them in the other order. We started off with the mentors, and then we had started the peer-to-peer sessions about halfway through the programme, and this year we're going to start with the peer-to-peer sessions. That's probably the main change that we're going to implement this year, and that's from getting the feedback from last year's participants that it might be nice to start, especially as we're able to meet face-to-face now, to start with a peer-to-peer session so people can start to get to know each other. The participants on the programme can meet, start to network, start to get comfortable with the development that they're going to have during the programme. And then when we've got to know the participants a little bit better, we're probably better able then to match them with their individual mentors. So that's the only big difference between last year's programme and this year's programme. we're going to be starting with the peer-to-peer process and then move on to the mentoring. And the mentoring framework, again, mentors offer that, not specific coaching or training, but it's really about sharing some of your own experience in your career and giving the mentee the time and the space to think things through and maybe do a bit of their own exploring and maybe even practicing or rehearsing stuff with your mentor that you might need to do in real life. It's that safe space to use it however you feel fit. And it really does benefit not only you and your personal development, but it benefits your whole organisation. And the idea, as Talitha says, cascading down to the whole organisation and the whole sector. So that's the framework. I think we've got another slide.
We're actually going to go on to some feedback. So that is summing up mentoring. It's a whistle-stop tour, but I think often what resonates are the people that have gone through a programme. So we've got Linda here today. I'll get Linda to speak after this because she's actually present on this meeting. But I think one of the quotes that came through was from Chris, the Chief Exec of the Forestry Voluntary Action Forum, who many of you may know. It was about saving time. So you think, investing in yourself and taking time out for you, you think, how am I going to fit that in? I'm such a busy person. I'm running a charity. It's so demanding. I'm time poor. But his quote really resonated. My mentor was everything you could ask for in a mentor. He listened, didn't judge, and provided helpful insight when required. When I started this process, I was worried it would take up too much of my time, but if anything, I now feel like I have more time due to the changes I've made in my work and personal life. So this is about this person as a listening ear, external of your organisation, external of your friendship circle. It's somebody that's dedicated to listening to you and unpacking that workload and everything that's going on in your head. And actually, Chris at the time, he's got a big job to do. He's got a lot going on, and just having that external person to talk to has actually given him time back. So, but Linda, can you come in at this point? And just, obviously that's your quote, but just hear from somebody who has set up their own charity organisation, CIC, but essentially delivering an amazing programme, but how demanding that is when it's rapidly growing, and just what a mentor's been able to bring to supporting you in this. Linda?
Yeah, so can you bring me, what do? Do you bring me in on this? How does it work?
Yes, so if you speak.
I am speaking. Can you hear me?
I will put you.
I can hear you, Linda.
Can people see Linda?
No.
I can see Linda, just and
I can just see the screen, which is a bit disconcerting. I want to be able to see all of you.
Let me just come out.
That's
here we go. So if you do your view and do speaker view, you'll be able to see Linda.
Okay. Well, if I start from the beginning, I suppose I came from a position where I had been running a business with a business partner, and I suddenly found myself on my own, having worked sort of hand in hand with somebody for 11 years. So I was immediately sort of having to think about everything myself, and Read With Me took off and was going at really at 100 miles an hour, and there wasn't time to think. And at that point, I hadn't got any employees, but I knew that was going to be the next step. But I did have a growing base of volunteers. And so I had to get things right. And they weren't things I could discuss with my volunteers. And subsequently, they weren't things I could discuss with employees. So I needed somebody to bounce off. And this programme, I mean, I used to use the word transforming, but it was because, as the other speaker said, there is always this feeling that you don't have time, but actually the 1 hour that I spent with Black was perhaps the most important 1 hour of every month, because it was a time for somebody to actually say well done, because nobody was telling me well done. I was just grinding on, sort of trying to make this thing happen and just feeling overwhelmed by it, but nobody would say well done. So he'd do that and he'd take about 1 minute to say well done. And then we would literally have this power hour where I had to dump on the table anything that was concerning me, and usually we'd have one big thing. And it was a bit like having a therapist where he'd say, well, what do you think you should do? And I would say, and he'd say, well, there you are then. And then he'd leave. And I'd go off and think, oh, well, that's all straightforward. And you go powering on. But he has been you know, we had our 6 sessions. Then obviously since then, frankly, if there's something I can't deal with or I want another opinion on, I just email him now. And, you know, he's been fundamental to the growth of the organisation, because he's allowed me to make some really big decisions by freeing me of some of the trivia where I've sort of over catastrophized things. And he said, well, you know, you can do that. And then on I've gone. And so we have, you know, Read With Me has built so quickly, and the scaling has been so dramatic that without him, I don't think I could have achieved it, because you need somebody to ground you. I mean, I think anybody, CEOs of huge organisations will tell you that it's very lonely, and that you need to have one person who's outside the organisation where they can give you an objective view and where you can actually be honest about what's happening. Because you also need to say if you think things are going badly, which you absolutely wouldn't share with a colleague. Because you have to be robust, don't you? In the third sector, particularly with COVID. I mean, I had the good fortune of starting this in COVID, so I didn't know any different. So I couldn't say this is all terribly difficult, because it was only what I knew. So that was a good thing. But yeah, I think having somebody who could be objective is really, really important.
And that you felt safe with.
Oh God, yeah. And also I was so brilliantly matched, because he's as rude and as sort of, his attention span is as short as mine, and so it was bang, 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 no waffle, no nonsense. And I don't think it would have been quite difficult to find somebody equivalent. So the matching was outstanding. You know, it was exactly the right person for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Linda.
Perhaps I shouldn't have said rude. Irreverent, I think, is the word I was searching for.
But that is a really good point about this matching. Because that's the magic that Marie puts together, understanding the mentors and understanding the mentees and their needs. That magic happens by putting the right people together. And we've had a sort of 100% success rate last year, with everybody feeling very happy with their mentors. Doesn't always happen, and some things break down, and there'll always be another mentor we can match you with. But essentially, Marie does that legwork. So it's a really good point. I'm just going to go back to sharing. Some of the other quotes, just quickly. It was a terrific experience, and it has been essential for problem solving and clarity. I found the support from my mentor invaluable when I found myself in a role that was overwhelming. Without her input, I would have not realised this or been able to navigate it. There's another person, so we want to make this as accessible as possible. And we've had 2 people who are deaf on the programme. One person who definitely needed sign language and support, and his mentor had never worked with a deaf person before, and Reg was left, again, similar situation, where he was left running an organisation when his line manager and CEO was off sick. And as a deaf person, you know, when you're left in this crisis situation, the things that we would normally do, pick up the phone, solve problems quickly, talk to people, get things moving. When you're deaf, you just can't do that. And actually it was so overwhelming. And having a mentor at that time was amazing. And Reg said without his mentor, he's not sure how he would have got through that. And Colin, on the other side, as a mentor, just said how much he'd learned and got out of this whole process. It's a two-way thing, it's not one way. Mentors learn a lot, mentees learn a lot. It's a real partnership. And actually, when they were talking about their relationship together, it did bring a tear to your eye. It was, you know, really transforming for both of them. So it's an equal relationship, and it's really nice to hear some of this feedback. So this will be sent out, and Linda has done, who you've just listened to, there's a case study, and we'll be able to share that as well. So that will be on the link. So quickly moving on to peer-to-peer. Marie, if you'd like to just go through what the peer-to-peer exchange looks like and how it works.
Yeah, thank you, Talitha. Yeah, really good to hear your feedback, Linda, and that the matching was so successful. It is really important, and it's for that reason that we have more mentors step forward for the programme than mentees, just so that I have a really big pool to choose from, so I can find that really good match. Peer-to-peer is a little different. So this is the group-based activity. This is the peer-to-peer forums. 5 or 6 leaders matched in a group together. Again, we do a good matching there. We try not to make it everybody in the same sector or the same types of charities or in the same town. We try to mix up Gloucester, Cheltenham, Forest of Dean, South Glos, make it a little bit sort of make sure people aren't in the same doing the same activities and probably already know each other. So there's a little bit of an element of networking with the peer-to-peer exchange, and those peer-to-peer exchanges, 5 or 6 people talking about their issues every couple of weeks. We're going to do that now. We did it every month last year, and we found that that was a little bit too long between sessions. So this year the other change we're going to make is make those sessions more regular. These sessions are online normally. I mean, they're normally, we perform this across the country, and they're usually done completely online, but because we're doing this in a limited geographical region, there's the opportunity for the orientation session, the first session, to be face-to-face and live, and the last session, the wrap-up, to be a face-to-face live session as well, so that the groups really get to bond a little bit more closely and more quickly. But the other sessions in between will be online, so you can join them from your desk. You just have to make time for them. They're at specific times. As I say, facilitated by Cranfield Trust, facilitated by expert and experienced facilitators. And this session is designed to give you space to deal with a particular issue. You take it in turns to talk about the issue you have and get that feedback and support from your peer group. You then go away with an action plan. You come back the following session and you tell people how you've dealt with your issue. So it's learning for everybody. It's a learning experience for everybody, whether you've been through that issue or not. You might not have gone through it already, but you may go through it in the future. So it's having that sort of learning in your back pocket for later, but it's also about getting something back for yourself. So it's a nice way of helping others in your group, but also receiving help and starting to prepare that sort of peer support group across the county. So it's sharing your issues, finding new perspectives on the issues that you've got, learning some new skills, and then helping to collaborate across the county. So the next slide, Talitha. So we call it peer-to-peer. We've ended up just shortening it to P2P, and it's actually based on an activity called action learning sets. If you've ever come across these before, it's just a way of problem solving. It's very practical. It's based on actual experience. So you go away with your action plan, try and resolve your issue, come back and report back on what you've done. So you will learn from peer-to-peer. It's not just a chat and a little networking opportunity. It's a lot more than that. It's a real positive and effective learning activity. When you come with your issue, you're called the challenge owner. So the challenge owner gets to present their issue and get their support on their issue. But obviously the other sort of benefit of this approach is the networking and the peer support. So here's some, I don't know if you want to read through the feedback, Talitha.
Yeah, there's some really lovely feedback on here. I like the fact that it's regional, as I'm keen to build that better, and creating a local network allows me to connect with people I can work with later. So it's a lot of those relationships. I think that piece that we were told from our charity leaders on our research, they wanted help with collaborations and partnership working, and this has definitely been a key way of doing that. P2P has given me the confidence that others were struggling with the same things as me. It was refreshing to be able to drop the facade and be honest with each other. Usually at networking events, people are going on about how well they're doing, and actually it is interesting because we all put on a brave face. We're charity leaders. You don't want to show that you're struggling because we just got to show on the facade, we know what we're doing, we're going where we're going, but actually all of us go through times of feeling maybe things aren't going so well, and to be able to share that and then realize everyone's going through something similar is incredibly helpful. And it's limiting the isolation where you think everyone else seems fine and you're the only one struggling. Actually, we're all struggling. So I think that group is building up that trust, and being able to talk to each other and being honest with each other has been hugely valuable for the people that participated. So working as a leader in a charity can often feel very isolating. It has been great to network and meet others in similar situations and to brainstorm ways through overcoming challenges. I have formed some good relationships with a couple of others in our group, and we will continue to stay in touch. This is really important as it offers an opportunity to support one another. So I think where our charity sector pre-pandemic, I think probably everyone will agree, that competition over collaboration was definitely, you know, everyone vying for the same funding pots, maybe not quite engaging with each other. But actually through the pandemic, we saw that complete switch to collaboration over competition, and charities wanting to work together, reaching out, whether supporting or even this partnership working is becoming more prevalent than ever. So I think this is probably the time, if anyone wants those opportunities to connect and connect better and more, this is certainly going to help. I'm just going to play, so Chris, who was from the Forestry Voluntary Action Forum, a little bit of a video here. It will be online. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to click out of here and just play a few minutes of Chris and his experiences with peer-to-peer. Can everybody see and hear this?
You need to turn the volume up, Talitha.
It's at the highest.
That might be something people can watch. I think it's really quiet.
Is it too quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to do with the audio settings on Zoom meetings. You have to do them in the back. So I think it's probably just a bit quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just come out of that. It doesn't want to stop now.
There's a few quotes on the slide actually we could read out.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got a way with words, Chris, so there's some really nice quotes.
Let me just go. Okay. Right. It's a really good little video, actually. So we'll share that. It will be on our YouTube channel. So we'll share all of this afterwards. But we'll go back in. Let's have a look. Okay, back to the slides. So I'm going to move on to becoming a mentor. So there's the mentoring peer-to-peer whistle stop tour, and now becoming a mentor. So I know a couple of you are looking to become mentors. So Marie will just explain a little bit about becoming a mentor, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, as we've obviously done this programme last year, we've already got a nice pool of regular mentors from the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire. We've also got lots of mentors available via our volunteer bank at Cranfield Trust, but also anybody who's interested in becoming a mentor in Gloucestershire. We're always looking for more people because it's really important we try and get that fit really good for the mentees. It's a short application process to join Cranfield Trust. The kind of experience we're looking for is just any kind of experience in leadership, strategic direction. So if you've managed, directed, founded, run an organisation as a CEO, or you've chaired a board, all that kind of experience is relevant. If you're good with people, all the better, and you've got experience of business planning, wonderful. It's also important to be a really good listener. We have our training materials that have been generously provided pro bono by Professor David Clutterbuck. And you'll also receive support from me during the whole relationship. So if you ever come across any issues at all, come to me and I will help you resolve them. And equally, becoming a mentee, that's probably, Talitha, your area.
Okay, so applications, becoming a mentee, if you come through the Invest programme on GCF's website, that's our full leadership programme, and on there in the mentoring will be the application form. It's really quick, it's a really simple form, fill it out, pop it across to me. We'll be collating over the next couple of weeks. I think there's 2 weeks, and the deadline, will let you know when the deadline is. I think it's 2 weeks from today, but essentially once we have chats with you, we'll pass them on to Marie and we'll move on. But generally, I think, Marie, if you just explain what you need to have in terms of the fit for being a mentee.
Yeah, the application form is a really good one-stop form. It just asks you, well, why are you looking for a mentor right now? What do you need help with? And then we can absolutely make sure that the mentoring is the right fit for you, that it's what you need, and we can help you. Also, your charity needs to be eligible. It needs to be addressing the needs of poverty, disability, or social exclusion. You need to be a formally constituted non-profit organisation. You need to be based in Gloucestershire for obvious reasons, and you need to be small. So small enough to not be able to afford to pay for this yourselves or have the expertise in-house yourself. So then I turn your application into a project brief, so that just spells out exactly who's responsible for what, and then you get that signed up by your board and management, or a couple of your management or directors if you're a KIC, and then I introduce you to your mentor. As I said, we will start with a peer-to-peer program, so you'll already be inducted into the program quite quickly with peer-to-peer, and the mentoring will follow on. Probably halfway through the peer-to-peer, we'll start talking about the mentoring fit, just so we can find the right person for you. So yeah, it's a simple tool. It makes it sound simple, doesn't it?
You'll get these slides. It's just going over the benefits, and then this year we're funding 10 charity leaders to go through the program, and we'll obviously be continuing to use our mentors through the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire. And as we said, Marie will continue to match the mentors and mentees up. So finally, becoming a mentor and mentee. If you become a mentor, please do contact Marie. The details are on there, but as I said, as a mentee, come through the GCF website. And last but not least, we must thank our funders. Without funding, this is not possible. So GWR and John Lewis have been the seed funders of this programme and have continued, John Lewis, to fund this second year. So this is a funded programme. It's probably equivalent to about £3,000 a partnership, and this is fully funded, so you don't pay anything. So I'm going to stop sharing, and time for anybody who would like to ask any questions. Anne, you're smiling there. Come on, you must have a question.
No, I don't have a question, actually.
Okay.
That was very mean what you just did to me.
I know how much you like talking.
You don't know me that well. No, it just sounds really exciting, actually. And whilst it's not a question, it's more of an observation from my side of things. So I am the operations manager for a small charity, Infobuzz, and yeah, I think every day is school day, and I always feel I've got lots to learn, and I kind of relish the ability to be able to learn from other people. I sometimes feel that actually my network of business people is quite small. And so for me, I think that's where I want to, because we are a developing business and we're looking to grow quite considerably over the next 18 months. And I just think I need some outside influences around me that can kind of, sometimes when I'm thinking I don't really know if I know what I'm doing, not know I know where I'm going. It's that confidence thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just having some that sense check. It's being able to sense check, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when I started, I was in the same position. Small charity in Gloucestershire, had come from the business sector into the third sector, so it was all new. And for me, I felt very lucky being part of a network of other chief execs I could talk to. So probably for the first 2 years, I was sense checking and still sense checking all the time. And I think how lonely it would have been if I didn't have that network, and just wondered actually if the organisation would have had the confidence. And I know my grants manager Sarah's on here. She's got a network of the grants managers and people working the grant side, that when we wanted to move quickly and do things, we could, if we felt slightly unsure, be sense checking, and that just helped us accelerate so much quicker. So this is what we want to try and provide in terms of any charities working on their own in the county, that you also are able to get that network. Amy, I think you've got your hand up there.
I have. I was also
Hello.
Congratulating Anne, because she is. I'm trustee with Anne, and it's a fantastic charity. doing some incredible work in Gloucestershire. So well done, Anne. I just wanted to check the criteria because we skipped over the sort of the type of charity that could make an application. Last year we didn't qualify because we were too big. Now we've got rid of the A38 money out of our bank account.
Yeah.
We actually do qualify as a small charity at Cotswold Canals Trust. And now I see that there's that the very strict sort of social exclusion, etc., criteria. Now, I think Cotswold Canal Trust is the biggest men's shed project in the country, actually, with 800 volunteers, 65% over the age of sort of 70 odd. And we're actually doing quite a lot in terms of reducing isolation and social isolation, etc. But it's not our mission. Our mission is to restore a canal. So how does a charity like mine put forward our colleagues for this incredible programme? I think mentoring is one of the most valuable things in the world, and I'm desperate to get us to qualify.
Marie.
That's a question for both of us, isn't it,
Yeah.
Talitha? The applications will go directly to the Gloucestershire Community Foundation initially, who will then select the people they want to take forward, and then they have to meet our criteria. So I've got my colleague Joanne on the call as well, who's our head of development. But yeah, you don't have to be strictly a charity set up to address poverty, exclusion and isolation and disability, but if you have programs that promote resolving those issues in society, that should be enough to qualify from the point of view of the Cranfield Trust's participation. I'll check with my colleague Joanne, she's on the call. Does that sound like a good response from our side? That as long as you have programs that address those issues, it may not be your strict primary objective. But
well, I think that the official eligibility criteria are primary objects in human welfare. So that there can be a broad interpretation of that. So traditionally it was poverty, disability and social exclusion, but actually there's a wide range of human welfare charities. We also have an eligibility checkup on our website, which anyone is welcome to go and take a look at. But I think there's enough information within the programme that actually you can see whether or not you're eligible. But if you're broadly working in the field of human welfare, you should be eligible.
I mean, I think, and we've talked about this before, about the support for men in our county, and Men's Sheds is obviously a great charity, but what you're doing, Amy, is huge in terms of the people that come and work with you, and I think you can demonstrate the value you're supporting these people that would be isolated or lonely. So that rural isolation is a huge issue in our county, so anything that's addressing, because GCF is very much about tackling isolation and loneliness in all its forms, so it certainly would fit our criteria if you can demonstrate the work that you're doing. Maybe restoring a canal is the final piece of work, but actually it's all the journey up to that point of getting people together and giving them a project, and that's pretty much what every charity does, and they're doing something together. So I think in the small conversation it sounds like a good fit. Any other observations, questions for anything or anyone? No questions. Well, it's a bank holiday coming up, and I'm sure you're all going to be tying up work and hoping to have a little bit of a rest over the weekend, so we won't keep you any longer. As I say, please do, if you're not sure, you can always pop us an email, give us a ring. This is a pretty simple process to go through. We know how time poor everybody is, but essentially it is a really exciting programme, and we really welcome you to apply. So hopefully we'll see or speak to you all at some point in the future. Thank you so much, everybody. We'd like to say thank you, have a lovely weekend, and we're going to end this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tally.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Tally.
Thanks, Anne.